Hello, how are you all? Welcome everyone to your channel. Mary Knits, I'm Mary, and it's a pleasure for me to share with you a new tutorial for today's class. We are going to be doing the detailed step-by-step of this beautiful and elegant bag. Well, it's so pretty. We will be making it with a fantasy stitch, a very detailed stitch, very well finished. Look at what a spectacular stitch it is. We will also be working on the base, and we are going to make it from scratch. It's a firm, well-structured base with centered stitches. On the inside, the bag turns out to be quite spacious. We will add gold accessories that enhance the elegance of the bag. It's a beautiful, elegant bag, easy to make and quite affordable. We use very few materials for it. And if you're new, right? Enable notifications to catch all our tutorials. Next, we'll review materials and then the step-by-step instructions. For this project, we will need the following materials, and you can get them at your online store. Your supplies. In the video description, I will leave you the link to their shopping page. I have scissors, 6mm ginger needles. This will be our main needle, and a 3.5 knitting needle that we will use to hide threads. Measuring tape, 5 stitch markers, 80 centimeters of chain, 2 heart-shaped clasps, a magnetic sewing clasp, a ring, a 2 centimeter diameter clasp, a bell for the tassel, and a personalized tag. This one is optional, and you can get it at your online store. Do you have your supplies? I'm going to be working with selected Trapillo Pluma yarn. This one has a strand that's 2.5 centimeters wide, and the skein comes in 1 kilogram. Let's start with the first one. Let's start with the first stitch. Let's start with the first stitch. We're going to start with the first stitch. We're going to start with the first stitch, start with it, we're going to start with it. The base of the bag, we're going to make this with centered single crochet. You can also replace this base with a leather base, or you can make a base with simple single crochet. So we start by making a slip knot. We'll crochet 14 chains plus 1 for height, totaling 15 chains. We have the hook's loop. We yarn over and slide the loop on the hook, yarn over and slide. We are going to repeat this process until we complete the 15 chains. I completed the 15 chains and they measure 12 centimeters for the arch. We are going to work the first row, and we will do this on the back of the chain where the bumps are, here. We insert the needle under each one, starting at the second bump, because the first one is the turning chain, so we start here, at the second one. We pass the needle through. We yarn over. We raise it to the height of the little loop that's on the hook, yarn over again, and pass under both loops. We go under the next ridge, yarn over, and make a single crochet here. We go under the next one. We make the stitch here. We're going to work 1 stitch under each ridge until we reach the last one. We've reached the last ridge. In this one, we're going to make a triple increase, which means 3 stitches in that same stitch. To give the base its oval shape, we go under the ridge, yarn over, always lift to the height of the loop that's on the hook, yarn over again, and finish the stitch. As this is the first increase stitch, we'll place a marker here. We'll make the second stitch in the same spot. And the third stitch. We place a marker on this last one. This way, we complete the 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. And look how the base is taking shape here at the corner, forming an oval shape. So, here on the stitches on this side, we're going to work single crochet, passing the hook under the entire chain. We go under the chain and make a stitch under the next one. Continue like this until the final chain. We're going to work a triple increase, just like we did on this side. But at this point, we already have the first stitch. Look at it here. Here is the last chain. And notice that on this side, we already have the first stitch. So what are we going to do? We're going to complete the 3 stitches, making 1 stitch in this chain. We place the marker. Here we have 1, and on this side 2. To make the 3rd one, we raise this little ear, and it is completed when we finish the round. We go under the first chain. See, it's the first stitch on this side. We yarn over, and here we're going to make a slip stitch. We pass the first strand under the one we already had, and here we've completed the 3rd stitch. 1, 2, and 3, finishing this first round with a total of 30 stitches. We work a triple increase at the corners, and in the center we make 12 single crochets. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here at the bottom, we also have 12 stitches before the increases. We have 3 stitches on each side, and with this, we finish the first round. Now we're going to start working on round number 2. And in this one, we're going to make centered stitches. What does that mean? Centered? Insert the needle in the center of the stitch. See the single crochet? Put the needle between these 2 strands. And it should come out back here, right under the little ridge. And here, where the increases are, we're going to work 2 stitches in each stitch. What does it mean to make an increased stitch in each increased stitch from the previous round? So here we work. 2, 2, and 2. We insert the needle into this first stitch in the center. We yarn over, pull up a loop, and here we make the first stitch. We place a marker on this one. We insert the needle again. We make the second stitch. We already have the first increase of the second round. Now let's work. Centered stitch. Until we reach the stitch before the marker, we go through the center of the stitch. And we make a single crochet inside the next stitch. I'm going to make the last 2 stitches, and I take the opportunity to hide the leftover yarn. I tuck it in the back. I pass the needle through the center. And I make the stitch here, under the next one. We have already hidden the yarn. And here where the marker is, we remove it, and we're going to work the increase of 2 stitches. We open the stitch here very well and find the center. It should go between these 2 strands. We pass the needle through, and here at the back, it should come out between the 2 strands. We make the first stitch of the increase here and place a marker. Then we pass the needle again through the center of the stitch. We We've now finished increasing 2 stitches. Here's the center stitch. Look, right here, this is where we find its center. We reach the next marker. We remove it and make the increase here. Right?
Mhm.
Then we place the marker here again. We finish the increase here, making 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's work on this side now. Knit 12 centered stitches up to the stitch before the marker. In the center of the stitch, we knit, placing the centered stitch in the next one's center. Finish the 12 stitches. We are going to make the increase on this side. We go through the center to make the first stitch. We make the next stitch. Now we have the first increase. Let's make the second increase here. 1. And second, this increase completes the 3 on this side. Look, at the beginning of the round, we made the first increase, which is where we placed the marker. Here we made the second one, and this is the last one. Let's close the round. We remove the marker. We give height to this little ear and pass the needle under the second chain, not under the first one, but the second one. And we're only going to do this in this second round. We go from back to front, place the reserved little ear, and take it to the back. We finish round number 2 with a total of 36 stitches. Please check. We work 6 stitches in the increases and continue making 12 and 12 stitches on each side. We'll now begin round 3, which is the final one for the base. We position ourselves at the stitch where we ended the last round. Note that we've moved the yarn to the back. Here at the bottom, we have a stitch and we go through the center. We place the reserved ear. We tighten the stitch. We take the yarn and make the first stitch. Here is the first stitch of round 3. In the increases, we're going to work a sequence of increase stitch, single stitch, increase stitch, single stitch. So in this first stitch, we're going to make an increase. We reinsert the needle. And we make the increase here. Here we have 2 stitches. In the next stitch, which is part of the previous increase, we make a single stitch. Here's an increase stitch and a single stitch. We are going to make 12 centered stitches until we reach the stitch before the marker. I finished the 12 stitches. We make the increase here. Here we start with a 2-stitch increase. Remember that we follow a sequence of increase stitch, single stitch, increase stitch, single stitch, increase stitch, single stitch. We make the increase here. Increase of point. Of increase point. of increase, of point, of increase point. We have made 3 increases here, 1, 2, and 3 here in the last single stitch. We complete the increases here with 9 stitches in total. Now we are going to work the 12 center stitches until we reach the stitch before the next marker. I have already finished the 12 stitches on this side. We are going to continue with the increases, following the sequence right here where the marker is. We make an increase stitch in the next single stitch, increase stitch, single stitch. Note that we started with an increase and a single stitch. We have the increase. We make the single stitch here. The next one increases. And in this last stitch, dueno. Increase, stitch increase. V means that in this stitch we make a single stitch. We're going to make the closure. We lift up this little loop and pass it under the first complete chain from back to front, place the reserved loop and pull it to the back. Adjust it here very well. We finish the increases on this side and complete 9 stitches, counting the closing stitch. Whenever you finish a round, adjust the stitches so that the base starts to take its shape. Here we finish round number 3. This will be the last one for the base, unless you want the base a little bigger. Continue working the rounds following the corresponding sequence. Here we finish with a total of 42 stitches. Please check. We work 12 stitches in the center before the increases, and in each increase we make 9 and 9 stitches. The base ended up measuring 20 centimeters in length and 7 centimeters in width. Now we're going to work on the body of the bag. Here, we'll make a first round of single crochet to separate the base from the body. We're going to do this by passing the needle through the center of the chain, taking only the strand that's on the top. Here is a complete chain. We go through the center and take the top strand. And we're also going to take the little bump that's on the back side. This time, to make this first round stronger, we go through the center and the little bump that's on the back side. We position ourselves where we ended the last round. This loop has 2 strands. We insert the needle through the center, from back to front, twist it, and this way we place the reserved loop onto the needle. We tighten the stitch very well, until the yarn at the bottom is the same size as the others. Chains. Start the first stitch here and make it. Slide it through the center and under the ridge. Continue the process at each chain center, along the edge of the base, up to this final point. With this, we finish the round. Here, we don't work any increases. We make a total of 42 stitches. Please check. Look, here we have already divided the base of the bag's body with this line. See how pretty it looks? Every time you finish a round, make sure to adjust it. We adjust it this way. Now watch the piece take shape. We finish the round, give height to this little ear, and go under the first full chain from back to front, place the reserved little ear on the needle, and pull it to the back. We tighten this strand well, and now we'll start round 2 with a centered stitch. We go through the center of the stitch where we pulled the strand to the back. We put the reserved loop on the needle. We tighten the strand. We make the first stitch here. Look, we have a centered stitch here. We go through the center of the next stitch. Here, we always keep the height at the level of the loop that's on the hook, so all your stitches come out nice and even. We'll go through the center of the next one. And that's how we'll continue making the stitches, one in the center of each stitch, until we reach the last one. We finished the stitches. Now we'll do the last one here. This concludes the second round. And look how the stitches look centered, all even and the same size. But if you look closely, the base is twisted, Mari. And this happens because it's very normal for this to happen in the first rounds as you go up. The base tends to twist. But as you keep working the round, it will start to take its shape. What you should do is organize it every time you finish a round. We're going to close it, give it some height. We go through here, we're going to close it. We give height to this little loop and pass under the entire chain from back to front. Place the little loop and take it to the back. Here we tighten it, and this is how we're going to close it in all the following rounds. So now, to start the third round, we're going to begin by making the fantasy stitch, which is the pattern we'll continue working with for the body of the bag. So pay close attention, because here we're going to start with a centered stitch, just like we did in the previous round. We pass the needle under the strand we've brought to the back, place the reserved loop in the center of the stitch, tighten it, yarn over, and bring it forward. Look, here we have a loop on the hook. What we're going to do now is not close the stitch, but instead insert the needle into the center of the stitch from the previous row. This is the base, right here underneath. Right here in the center, where we made the first stitch. In the center of the previous row stitch. Here, we insert the needle through its center. We yarn over. We pull through, so now there are 2 loops on the crochet hook. Slip the first loop into the existing one. We chain up, and here we finish the stitch. First stitch done. Fancy, huh? We insert the needle in the center of the next stitch. Here we arrange the yarn nicely, bring it forward, and chain up. At the level of the little loop that's on the hook, what we do now is insert the needle into the center of the stitch below. We yarn over, pull through, and now we have 3 loops on the hook. We slide the last loop through the one that's in the center. pull through, and here we raise it to the height of the loop that's on the hook. We yarn over again, then close the stitch. Here's how the stitch looks. Fantasy. We go through the center of the next stitch, yarn over. We go through the center of the one below. We slip here. We add height and finish the stitch. We pass the needle through the center of the next stitch. We place the yarn here. We raise it to the level of the loop that's on the hook and pass through the center of the stitch below. We slip, raise it, and close the stitch. We repeat again, go through the center, yarn over, and raise it. Not like this, but like this. The height isn't given at the top, but right down here, because if you give it too much height, this little bump that we get in the stitch ends up too big. So the idea is that it shouldn't be too tight or too loose. Are you giving it the height like this? You go down, make sure the little ear is enough to lower the stitch, pass it through the center, yarn over, slide right away through that little ear, and here you give it height. Yarn over and close the stitch. Arrange it very well, and that's how it should look. You notice that this stitch is looser than the previous one. Let go and repeat the process. In this case, we repeat again. Pass through the center, arrange the yarn. Pass through the center. Slide the stitch from below, which you quickly go through that small loop and add height. Close the stitch with the yarn. Pass through the center of the next one. Arrange the yarn neatly on the needle. Give it a little height and pass through the center of the stitch below. Pull through, slide right away, and here they close the stitch. See how the process is very simple, and the result is very beautiful. Let's continue. As you keep doing it, you'll get a little faster at it. That's it, thank you. Slide and close. Let's do the last stitch. We pass through the center, arrange the yarn here very well. Insert the needle through the center of the stitch below. We slide it. We lift and close the stitch. We finished this first round of fantasy stitch, and look how the stitches turned out. Here you can see the little bumps and the stitch on top. Look how pretty it is. We are going to do the closing, and it's the same one we've done in the previous rounds. Now, we're going to start round number 4, and we're going to do this one with centered stitch. We're going to alternate these two stitches. Centered stitch, fantasy stitch, centered stitch, fantasy stitch. We did round number 2 with centered stitch, round number 3 with fantasy stitch, and now round number 4 with centered stitch. We insert the needle into the stitch center where we brought the yarn back. Place the reserved loop here and tighten the stitch. We yarn over and we make a centered stitch here. We go through the center of the next stitch, make a centered stitch in the center of the next one, we make the last stitch. We add height, we make the closure. We open the stitch center. We're starting now. Round 5 begins. In this round, we'll work fantasy stitch. So we're not going to close the stitch, but leave a little loop on the hook. We insert the needle into the center of the previous stitch. We insert the needle. We yarn over. Make sure it's well organized. And we have 2 loops on the hook. We slide, give it height, and close the stitch. We go through the center of the next one. In the middle of the stitch below, we yarn over and slip immediately. And here we give it height. We close the stitch. Let's keep going. We go through the center of the next one. We yarn over, insert the needle into the center of the stitch below. We slip. We go into the center. We pass the bottom point. We pull out, we slide. We give it height and close the stitch. Look how the stitch turns out. We continue doing the process until we reach this last stitch. We slip the last stitch, go through the center, yarn over, and give it a little height. Don't give too much height to this little ear, because if you give it height with the piece like this, when you make the stitch, you'll skip it. It'll be too big. Just look at it. It turns out very wide. So, to know the measurement, go through the center, yarn over, and lift slightly. Look, the piece is on its side. See how I have it positioned? I don't have it standing up, it's lying down like this. And here, I make sure the needle stays straight. See that it's just right to reach the stitch below? Look, it's not too high. So, I go through the center of the stitch below. I yarn over and immediately slip it inside that little loop. I lift and close the stitch. Look, here the little ridge turned out just right, not too wide or too tight, so here I finish the round. That's how we end round 5. Look at how the stitches look, the inside part, and see how the piece is no longer twisted like it was before. As we keep going up, the piece starts to straighten out. See how it's going. Here, we are going to continue working following this sequence. Now, for round number 6, you're going to start with a centered stitch, the whole round centered stitch. Round number 7 fantasy stitch, round number 8 centered stitch, round number 9 fantasy stitch. This way, until you reach the desired height. I'm going to continue doing this process, and I'll show you how tall it gets and how many rounds we're going to do. I've completed the piece's height. Look at how the stitches look. I'm showing you all the details. Look here at how the ridges look, all well organized, lined up, and the stitches. Everything is the same size. Look at how it looks here on the back. I'm also showing you where we've closed each round. Look, you can't see it. The piece doesn't have a visible seam. The key when closing is to tighten the stitch very well, so there are no gaps between them. I'm also showing you the base. Look how firm it is and how it turned out completely straight. As you go up, you can see the base is aligning, and on the inside, look how it turned out. The bag has plenty of space. Of course, if you want to make the bag a little wider, what you need to do is make the base bigger. I worked a total of 17 rounds. We did the first one with single crochet and the rest of the rounds with the fantasy stitch. There are 2 rounds in each stitch. The one below, which is centered, and the one on top, which is the fantasy stitch. So, for each round of the fantasy stitch, are you going to count 2? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. First one, 17 rounds. If you want to make the piece a little taller, you just keep working the rounds following the sequence. I worked a total of 17 rounds, the first one we did with single crochet, and the rest of the rounds. In each one there are 2, one with centered stitch and one with fantasy stitch. You'll identify them by counting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And the first one is 17. You can also count the bumps to guide yourself. There are 8 rounds with 2 in each. So, if you want to make the piece a little taller, you will continue working the rounds, following the sequence until you reach the desired height. So far, we have 17 centimeters. We're at the last stitch, and we're going to make the closing. We're going to do this differently because we're going to keep working 2 rounds with slip stitch to give a better finish to the edge of the bag. So here we have a little loop on the hook, and we're going to insert the needle into the center of the chain from front to back. Look, here is the first one. We go through the center, yarn over, bring it forward, and now we have 2 loops on the hook. What are we going to do? We're going to slip the first one into the one we already had. And here we've started the first stitch. So we pass the needle through the center of the next chain. Here. We pass the needle. We take the yarn. And here we slide. We pass the needle through the center, take the yarn and slide, slide. Try to give a little bit of height to the ear on the hook, so the stitch doesn't end up too tight. Little ear, the little ear. We are going to work a slip stitch in the center of each chain until we get here to the chain. Before where we made the closure, we make the last stitch. And here we are not going to close the round. We are going to continue making slip stitches. We start the second one. This would be the last round. We keep working with slip stitch all along the edge until we reach the last stitch again. We make the stitch that is before where we close the round. Notice that this is where we started. We leave the stitch and here we cut the yarn. We pull out the yarn. and we're going to close it, simulating a chain stitch. Notice that we worked up to the stitch right before where we made the first round of slip stitches. We insert the needle not into the first chain, but into the second one, from back to front. We bring the yarn. We reinsert the needle into the center of the last chain. We grab the yarn and pull it. We make sure the chain is the same size as the others. Look, we've completed the closure. Look how it turned out then. We're going to hide the leftover yarn under the stitches, and we'll use a thinner needle to help us. We trim the excess, but before that, you can add a drop of silicone underneath to keep the yarn in place. Later on, we'll cut and hide the tip. We're going to attach the magnetic clasp, so let's take the piece and arrange it very well, making sure the base is straight. Here, we choose the side we want, like the right side. I'm going to leave the side where we finished the rounds at the back. So I take this side as the right side, arrange it very well, and find the center. In this case, the center would be around here. We take the clasp, the thick part, and we place it here at the back. Once the clasp is properly positioned, we are going to sew it with a needle and nylon thread. This process is very simple, just like sewing a button. So we're going to pass the needle here through the first space, from front to back, being very careful that it only comes out at the bottom of the stitch. If necessary, twist the stitch a little and pull the thread through. You're going to leave a thread to sew at the end, so you're going to pass it through again. And you go backwards. Tighten it very well and go back again. You have to go outside the space. You go back again and pass the needle outside the space because the clasp needs to be tight. Here you can do 3 or 4 turns until you see that side is nice and tight. Pass again through the space and bring it back here. We take the needle to the back. And here you are going to pass through the space that is underneath. You make 3 stitches, move to the next space, make 3 stitches, move to the next space. When we get here, I'll show you how to make the complete closure. I finished the stitching in each space. You need to make sure at the end that the clasp is well secured. What I did was bring the yarn to the first space where we started. So here we cut, and we're going to secure these little ends by making some knots. Sew it snug. We tuck the excess in there, under the stitches. We cut it and we'll carefully burn the excess. We're going to do it now. Here, we're going to place the other part of the clasp. We position it here in the center. We open it, and here on this side, we're going to do the same process. 3 stitches in each space, secure it, and finish off the stitching very well. I finished sewing the clasp. Look how well it fits. On this side, I took the opportunity to attach the plate already. Look how pretty it is. Let's make the tassel. Here I've cut 6 strands, each 35 centimeters long, and here I have the little bell. We take the strands, we fold them in half, and here we twist a little. We pass the strands inside the little bell. Here, arranging it very well, we use a tweezer here. Let's even out the ends now. Let's attach the heart-shaped carabiner. Here, I opened a link of the chain. I used pliers to help me, like this. And to close it, we're going to use a little piece of fabric yarn so we don't damage the chain. We've completed the bag process. I'll show you the result. Look at all the details. What a beautiful stitch. It's a very simple bag with a lovely stitch. Look inside, how spacious it is. It ended up being 19 centimeters tall. And in width, 25 centimeters. These measurements may vary depending on the thickness of the material you're working with, and you can also adjust them depending on the size you want. If you're wondering, Mary, can I use a different material for this project? Of course you can do it. You can use silk cord, flat cord, PIP cord, and macrame. You can work with whatever material you have available. The bag weighed 480 grams without hardware. That's the total amount of material I used for the entire project. Thank you for staying with me until now. I hope you enjoyed the whole process and that you put it into practice. If that's the case, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and leave a comment as a sign of appreciation. This may seem insignificant, but it motivates me to keep sharing a new tutorial with you every week. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe and also activate the notification bell so YouTube can let you know. Every time we upload a new project, I'll see you in the next class. God bless you. Bye.